Hey, I'm a psychiatrist, and today I'm breaking down what actually happens in your brain when you date someone. I'm going to talk about why these changes matter and what you need to know about the neuroscience of romantic attachment. Now, I know some of you are probably like, well, yeah, falling in love makes you happy. That's normal. And you'd be right, but partially, because here's the crucial thing that most people don't realize, and that's the fact that what's happening in your brain when you start dating someone isn't just emotional, it's neurological. So your brain is literally rewiring itself, and some of those changes stick around even long after the relationship ends, which means that the person that you're with is literally shaping your neurobiology, for better or for worse. And today I will show you exactly how. Now, if you're new here, I'm Dr. Joseph. I also go by Dr. J, and I'm a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry. And I have training in couples therapy. And this topic is something that comes up a lot as people process both successful and failed relationships. Anyway, my goal on this channel is to make mental health make sense for you. So let's jump in. For our very first point, let's talk about what happens in your brain when you first meet someone that you're attracted to. So when you're in the early stages of dating, your brain is basically on drugs. I mean, I'm referring to that butterflies in your stomach, can't stop thinking about them phase. And the primary neurotransmitter is dopamine, which is basically your brain's reward chemical. So when you see the person that you're dating, when you text them, when you think about them, your brain releases dopamine. And dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it makes you want more. So using brain imaging, researchers have actually found that when you show someone a picture of your romantic partner early in the relationship, specific brain regions light up. Things like the ventral tegmental area, or the nucleus accumbens, or the caudate nucleus. These are all parts of your brain's reward circuitry. And do you know what else activates those same regions? Yep, cocaine, gambling, video games, pretty much any behavior or substance that creates a strong reward response. So think about someone in the early stages of dating. They check their phone constantly, they're waiting for a text, and when the text comes in, there's this rush of excitement. If the text doesn't come in, there's anxiety, maybe even desperation. Your whole mood seems to depend on whether this person responds. That's not just being clingy, that's a dopamine-driven behavior. Your brain has learned that this person equals reward, and now it wants that reward constantly. And here's the thing. This system is incredibly powerful because from an evolutionary perspective, it needed to be. You know, forming pair bonds was crucial for survival. Even raising children required cooperation. So your brain developed this intense reward system to motivate you to form and maintain romantic relationships. But, and this is huge, just because something is evolutionary doesn't mean it's always helpful. Because that same dopamine system that helps you bond with a healthy partner, it can also keep you stuck in a toxic relationship. Okay, for our second point, let's talk about what happens as a relationship continues and deepens. So dopamine gets you interested, but oxytocin is what keeps you bonded. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone or bonding hormone, and it's released during physical intimacy. When oxytocin floods your brain, it makes you feel connected, it makes you feel safe and trusting. In fact, research in prairie voles, which are one of the few mammals that form monogamous pair bonds, they show that oxytocin is essential for bonding. Because when researchers blocked oxytocin receptors, voles didn't bond with partners. But when they increased oxytocin, bonding happened even faster. Now, here's what's fascinating. Oxytocin doesn't just make you feel connected in the moment, it actually changes your brain's response to that specific person going forward. So think about this. Early in a relationship, you might feel anxious or uncertain about the other person. But as time goes on, as oxytocin is repeatedly released when you're together, your brain starts associating that person with safety and comfort. Your amygdala, which is your brain's fear center, it becomes less reactive when you're with them, and your stress response calms down. Let me walk you through a clinical example. I once had a patient with pretty severe social anxiety. You know, they avoided crowds and struggled with public speaking. Even small social gatherings made them anxious. But when your partner was with them, your anxiety dropped significantly. And why is this? Well, it's likely because your brain had learned through repeated oxytocin releases that this person equaled safety. This is a concept called social buffering, and it's pretty powerful because it means your romantic partner can literally change your stress response. But here's where it gets complicated. Oxytocin also makes you less critical. It makes you more forgiving. It makes you more likely to overlook problems, which is great for maintaining relationships through normal conflicts, but not so great if there are genuine red flags that you should be paying attention to. The research also shows that oxytocin can actually impair your ability to detect dishonesty or manipulation in people you're bonded with. Because of the oxytocin, your brain is now wired to trust them, which means you might easily miss warning signs that are obvious to everybody else. Now, by the way, if you're finding this video helpful, definitely subscribe now so you don't miss out on future videos like this. You'll also be helping spread mental health awareness by making this channel visible to other amazing people like you. So thank you. Our third point, let's talk about attachment and how your brain's bonding systems create lasting change. So your brain has specific neural circuits dedicated to forming and maintaining attachments to caregivers, friends, romantic partners, etc. And when you spend significant time with someone, especially when there's repeated oxytocin release or shared experiences and emotional intimacy, your brain literally builds new pathways associated with that person. Now, research using fMRI or functional MRI scans show that when people in long-term relationships are shown pictures of their partners, different brain regions activate compared to pictures of strangers or even close friends. So the brain has created a specific dedicated circuit for processing information about this person. Now, here is where that's clinically important because these neural changes persist even after the relationships end. So I've met people who have broken up with someone years ago. I mean, the relationship is completely over. They're even in new, healthy relationships now, but certain songs, certain places, certain time of the year still trigger strong emotional responses about the other person. Now, why is this? It's because those neural pathways are still there and the brain hasn't completely unwired that attachment. This is why breakups can be so neurologically difficult because you're not just losing the person, you're trying to deactivate your neural circuits that have been dug so deep into your brain's architecture. This takes time and effort, as we know, because it's a biological process, not just an emotional one. Research also suggests that it can take months to years for these neural pathways to fully weaken after a relationship ends, especially if the relationship was a long-term relationship or particularly intense. For our fourth point, let's talk about long-term structural brain changes. So, there's emerging research showing that being in a long-term romantic relationship can change your brain's structure, particularly in areas involved in social cognition, empathy, and emotional regulation. One study looked at couples who had been together for over a year. Now, compared to single individuals, people in relationships showed increased gray matter density in particular brain regions. These were areas involved in understanding others' emotions, managing your own emotions, and processing social information. Now, think about what this means, because when you're in a relationship, you're constantly practicing social and emotional skills. You're reading your partner's facial expressions, you're interpreting their tone of voice, you're managing conflicts, you're coordinating activities, and you're providing emotional support. All of these things require your brain to work in really specific ways. And just like exercise builds muscles, this repeated neural activity builds your brain structure. But here's the other side. Just as healthy relationships can build positive brain changes, unhealthy relationships can create negative ones. So research on people in abusive relationships show changes in brain regions involved in threat detection and stress response. So brain areas like the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, become hyperreactive, or their prefrontal cortex, which normally regulates emotions, become less effective. They develop what looks neurologically similar to PTSD. And this is because their brain has been adapting to an environment of chronic threat. And these changes persist, unfortunately, because even after leaving the abusive relationship, the brain takes time to recalibrate those neural pathways that have already been established. Which is why, choosing partners wisely matters more than people realize, because you're not just choosing someone to spend time with, you're choosing someone whose influence will be encoded in your literal brain structure. For our fifth point, let's talk about the clinical implications of dating and relationships, because this will help you understand common day-to-day patterns so much better. So all these brain changes we've discussed so far, the dopamine reward, the oxytocin bonding, the attachment circuits, the structural changes, they're all designed to help humans form lasting pair bonds, which is generally adaptive, but they can also create problems. One major issue is a concept I call biochemical blindness, which is when your brain's reward and bonding systems are fully activated, they can actually override your judgment. So you might stay in a relationship that's objectively not good for you because your brain chemistry is keeping you attached. What you think about someone whose partner is unreliable? They cancel plans constantly, they're emotionally unavailable, and everyone in this person's life is saying, you deserve better. This relationship isn't healthy, but they can't leave. And why? Because the brain has bonded. The neural pathways are there. The oxytocin system is active, and your dopamine system is getting reinforced every day. Another interesting clinical pattern is rebound relationships. When someone immediately jumps from one relationship to another, what appears to be happening neurologically is that your brain's attachment system is already active. The neural circuits for bonding are established, so they quickly attach to someone new, not because this person is necessarily right for them, but because their brain is currently primed for attachment. I've had friends who recognize this pattern. They say something like, I know I shouldn't start dating yet. I should probably process my old breakup first. But the truth is, their brain is essentially experiencing withdrawal from the bonding hormones and dopamine, so they seek out a new source. And here's a really important part. These neurological processes help explain why therapy for relationship issues is so important, because when your brain chemistry is influencing your decision making this strongly, you need an external perspective. You need someone who can help you think through what's actually happening versus what your dopamine and oxytocin systems are telling you is happening. So one massive major point here is dating changes in your brain isn't good or bad in itself. It's kind of both. On one hand, this neuroplasticity is what allows humans to form deep, meaningful connections. It's what makes long-term partnerships possible. It's what helps us grow and develop through relationships. And the right relationships can literally build your brain in positive ways. It can make you more empathetic, more emotionally regulated, and more socially skilled. But on the other hand, this same neuroplasticity means the wrong relationship can damage your brain. It can create neural patterns of anxiety, fear, or just general attachment to someone who's harmful. It can keep you stuck through powerful biochemical processes that override your better judgment. And this means that choosing partners matters way more than people realize. Now, if you found some value in this video, I want you to click that subscribe button right now so you don't miss future helpful videos like this. Also, drop a comment below about the most surprising thing you learned about the neuroscience of dating and relationships today. I read and respond to every single comment, so I look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, I'm Dr. Joseph, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.